Thank you for watching Take 5 with Melissa Fedora. I'm here today in our studios in Orland Park, Illinois, joined with our guest, Aishling Dalton Kelly. Hi, Aishling.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with us. Aishling is the owner of Aishling Companion Home Care, which has been in business since 2012, located in Orland Park, servicing Cook, DuPage, and Will counties. And Aishling provides professional caregiving for shifts or around-the-clock care in-home or wherever the client's home is, correct?
That's exactly correct.
So if a client doesn't live at home, if a client's in a care facility, it doesn't matter, you come to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or if perhaps they're in a hospital and they need, a familiar face when we took care of them at home, we can also go to the hospital and sit with them and take care of them from there as well.
Okay. So what is the difference between home health and home care? We hear a lot of these buzzwords, and unless you've had a family member in something like this, a lot of people don't really understand. So you're today going to explain a lot of different things to us. So we're going to go over some main points that people should probably know if they're someday faced with this, of having to help out a family member or maybe even themselves. So let's start. What's the difference between home health and home care?
So home health is, first of all, usually something that's a temporary service, and Medicare does cover that.
Okay.
Part A and other parts of Medicare as well, under the supervision of doctors, nurses, physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, CNAs, and home health aides. We are private pay, and a lot of times we work in connection with home health services, but our services are completely non-medical. So there's no supervision of a doctor or a nurse, or we don't even have to have certified nursing assistants. We are home services.
Okay.
So there's a very big difference.
So that's the difference between full service, but now there's full service and there's placement agencies as well. Okay. So explain that, because I know that's another word that comes up a lot.
Okay, so the difference between home services, which I am, and the difference between home placement, we are both licensed by IDPH, which is the Illinois Department of Public Health. However, there are vast differences because I am, as a full service agency, I am the employer of all of our caregivers. So what does that mean? That means that when I employ them, I am responsible for their state, their federal taxes. I am responsible for their portion of Medicare as an employer, and we are responsible for the training, the supervision, the ongoing training, and any issues, scheduling, and any issues to do with the caregivers and the family. That is all on me. Placement agencies pay a lot less of a license than I do, and they pretty much hire independent contractors who do train maybe once a year, but there's no continuous anything. So they are put in a home, they are placed, the caregiver pays that placement agency a fee, and so too does the family, and then that's it. There's no supervision, there's no further scheduling, there's no further contact. The biggest misconception for the consumer today is that when you hire somebody such as us, which is full services, our workers are covered by workers' comp, general liability, and insurance. So if anything were to happen in the home, our workers are covered. With the placement person, that's it. There's nothing.
Once that person was placed, they've moved on. So what are some of the things you mentioned earlier that it's non-medical? Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that we would be hiring you to have someone come in the home to do?
Okay, so most people when they need us, it's usually when disasters happened. Either they have fallen, or they've had hip surgery, some sort of an injury of some type where they need extra assistance. Where do we do that? Generally, it's showering and bathing, all the personal services that they can't do by themselves.
So those personal services are considered non-medical?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you don't need any sort of a certification to be able to shower somebody.
Sure.
However, we do teach our caregivers how to do that with dignity and all of that other good stuff. A lot of what we do is some housekeeping. We're not, a cleaning service by any means, but we can empty dishwashers, prepare them meals, nutritional stuff, and a lot of what we do is transportation. Because most of the clients that we take care of, probably 60% of our work is people that have dementia. So they're not driving.
So they're not driving,
They're not driving, and they're forgetting to eat, they're forgetting to shower, forgetting to change their clothing. So I like to think of our ladies and our gentlemen as personal assistants that actually come in and really kind of run the house, but the person we work for is the boss.
Sure.
We just blend it.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yes.
So how how do you go about hiring these people then? Because if I hire you to place someone into my home, I have a stranger in my home or in my loved one's home, and I'm probably not there to supervise, which is why I have someone coming into the home. Okay. So how do I leave this home with my loved one in there and feel comfortable? What lengths do you go to?
We get asked this question all the time. So yes, they are a stranger to you, but they're not a stranger to us because they're my employees.
Sure.
So I know them, and chances are they've been working for me for months, weeks, days, or even years. So that's a beautiful thing, but the average senior is very frightened by having anybody come into their home because it's a security thing.
Right.
So that's a very big component of what we do, because we don't just put them in the home like a placement agency and walk away.
Okay.
Placement agencies place and that's it. They are done. They're actually not allowed to continue to check in on either you as the client or the caregiver at all, because they're placement. Mm-hmm. However, for us, it is constantly continuous. So I like to explain to our clients that we're like the triangle. There's me, there's the client, and there's the caregiver. And if all three of us aren't communicating, then there's a problem. So we, Aishling Companion Home Care, reaches out to our caregivers every single week. And if they don't call us, we call them, because we actually want to know, how are you doing in the home? Is everything okay? How's everything going with the client? And then we reach out to our clients every 2 weeks to ask them exactly the same question. So just say there was an issue or there was a problem, we address it, we can tweak, we can change things. And more importantly, it's about keeping the senior safe. It's all about safety. So we're on it all the time. One of the things that I pride myself in is we have a 24/7 number. So when our offices close, you are not going to call and get a machine with prompts and an automated system to tell you push 1, push 2. You will get a real person. Of course, emergencies only, and we'll take care of it. If you need maybe extra coverage or something has happened, we will be there for you. Wow. So that's a big component of what we do, and again, you wouldn't get that with the placement agency.
How do you go about picking the person on your end with the client? How do you place them? Do you try to place interests or skill levels?
Well, yes and no. So what we look for is compassion, because that's something we can't teach. Everything else we can teach, because as I said earlier, because we're non-medical, they don't actually have to have any sort of certification at all, although we do have retired nurses and we do have CNAs that work for us.
Okay.
Under my license, they don't need to be certified at all.
Okay.
So we have software that tries to match caregivers to clients. So for example, we'll just say hypothetically, if you had cats and I have a caregiver, one of the questions we ask a caregiver in training and in hiring is, are you allergic to any animals? So clearly, if she was allergic to animals, we wouldn't be matching her with you. Okay. That happens with smokers, non-smokers. Okay. We have some caregivers who, for religious reasons, can't work with men. We have some people who have other restrictions. So we take all of that into account, and our software will match one by one. And then we, because we're smaller and we're a private agency, we're not corporately owned, we know all of our caregivers by name, we know all of our clients by name. So when we come out and we meet with you and we say, okay, what did your dad like to do and what did he work at, we take all of that into consideration, and then we can pretty much come up with, oh my gosh, guess who'd be great with him, guess who'd be great with her. Now, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you're sending a caregiver that is qualified and we send them in, but where that comes into play is when we call our caregivers, how are you getting on? Are you getting on okay with the client? Are there any conflicts? Is there any issues that you're having? And if there are, then that's where we tweak it.
That's very nice. It's like you probably use some of the same services that maybe you use when people try to place themselves into a job or like dating software. That's very neat that you can really specify it so that you know that they're going to, not only is this person going to take care of them, but that they're going to enjoy each other's company.
The biggest thing for us is safety. And then beyond that, it's training. So we train every single caregiver for anything that they may or may not meet in the house. So the rest is personalities. And sometimes personalities clash, that it doesn't match. And then, again, you go back to your weekly phone calls. If the caregiver or the client is struggling, then we try and change the caregiver out.
Okay. And of your caregivers, how many of them are maybe meeting with multiple clients a day, or how does that work?
Well, our minimum is 12 hours a week. So typically most clients need us in the morning for bathing, breakfast,
Sure.
getting everything up and ready for the day. So you could have one girl service 2 sets of clients in a week.
Okay.
So she would be out there, every day. Some clients say, well, we don't want somebody in our home, 3 times a week. Can we do 2 6-hour shifts? That's not a problem.
Okay.
So
So you can tailor it to whatever they want.
it's actually really all up to the client. It's whatever the client wants. That's what we try to work out with them, is what works for your schedule. Not everybody needs somebody in the morning.
Sure.
Some people don't like to get out of bed, especially our elder folks. They've worked all their life. They like to sleep on, and we understand that.
Sure, absolutely.
And they might say, can you come in the afternoon from 4 until 8, and can you prepare dinner and get us kind of set for bed? We can do that too. So it's really up to what the client wants.
Whatever they want. That's wonderful. So you did touch on a little bit earlier about Medicare. So let's go into payment
Okay.
a little bit more.
Okay, so the biggest misconception for people your age, my age, and the ones that are older is that Medicare doesn't cover any of this. As I had stated earlier, if you have a fall and you're in the hospital and you need to go to a rehabilitation facility, or the hospital discharges you home, that's under home health. The doctor is the one who prescribes that, so that is covered by Medicare.
Okay.
However, what we do, home services, it's all private pay. And the same for placement, if you're to hire it through a placement agency or even a private caregiver, it's all coming out of your own back pocket. Our insurance does not cover that.
Okay.
So start saving.
Yes. Yes. Now, you have some associations that I know that you're affiliated with. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So there's a couple of groups that I'm in. Continuity of Care would be one of them, and that would be a group of people that are in the health field in the area. That's one. And then the Home Care Association of America is the other one that I'm in, and that was formerly NPDA, which was National Private Duty Association of America.
Okay.
So the Home Care Association of America has a very elite group of agencies in it. There are 702 agencies that do what I do in Illinois, and there's about 115 of us that are part of this association. So collectively, as business owners, we're very ethical, we're very law-abiding. We work with the Illinois Department of Labor, we work with our licensure, which is Illinois Department of Public Health, and we advocate both for the client and for the caregiver, making sure that our caregivers are paid correctly. Caregivers, by state law, have to be paid time and a half after 40 hours, and unfortunately...
And is that with one particular client, or that's with a group of clients?
Well,
If they're servicing
actually,
2 different clients?
No, it would be slightly different. If they're with the one client for 40 hours, then it would be the client's responsibility to pay that caregiver time and a half after 40 hours. However, if I split a caregiver between 2 clients and she works 30 hours in one, if she goes over 40 hours, then, collectively with the 10 hours with the second client, then I would be responsible for the overtime. Yes.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that ethical agencies make sure that your caregivers do get paid that overtime.
Okay.
Because they're entitled to it.
Okay.
It's very important that they're paid correctly because their jobs are very hard.
Absolutely.
Very hard.
So when you hire someone to work for you, what are some traits that you're looking for in that person? How do you know that person is going to be a successful employee, I guess is the word, of yours?
So we look for so many things. It's not even funny. We're looking at a gentleman or a lady before, just from the get-go, from their application, and from there then we're looking to see where they've worked, what their experience is, and of course their age. Then from there we will invite them for a phone interview. We'll talk to them over the phone. Then from there, if we like what they're saying, how they're speaking, what they're telling us, we invite them in for a face-to-face interview. Then after the face-to-face interview, if we continue to like what we see, then we send them out a Care Series personality test, and that gives us back some more information as to, is this person going to be with us long term? Is this person somebody that's very integrous? So we're looking for all of those things that we want to see. the biggest thing that most of us look for in my business anyway is compassion, because that's something you can't teach.
Sure.
And like I had said before, a caregiver does not have to have any sort of degree, but you cannot teach compassion, and that's what we want. That's what we look for. The rest we can teach. It's not hard to teach somebody how to bathe, how to shower. We teach them all the rules and regs of HIPAA, infection control, all the state mandated testing. We have to do that anyway.
Okay.
So compassion for us, and warmth, and professionalism, they're all things we look for.
And I would imagine that if you're trying to place all these caregivers with different personalities of clients, you must have caregivers that just vary in age and likes and dislikes and personality, backgrounds. I imagine they must vary a lot, so you can place someone for everyone.
Right. And, it's like everything else. There are some caregivers who are bilingual, which is a great trait, because we might have somebody who says, I need a Spanish-speaking or a Polish-speaking person. Do you have somebody? And, of course, if we have them, we'll try and match them.
Sure.
We have clients who are diabetics, and we'll say, do you have anybody who's any bit of experience with insulin issues like that? And we could try and match with that. Some of our clients say we only want a CNA. If we have a CNA, then, of course, we'll be very happy to match with that. But for the most part, when we train a caregiver, they can go out and they can take care of somebody today because they just need a little bit of help, maybe with changing the sheets and doing a little bit of laundry. But ultimately, usually the person gets sicker and sicker, and we like to keep that caregiver with them. So I'm not a fan of bringing somebody into the office, training them, and then saying, come back and we'll train you, we need the extra training. We do it all up front. And then by state regulation, because we're a full service agency, we have to have continuous training every week.
Oh.
So
what are some of those things then that you're training every week?
Well, we have a lot of people who have Parkinson's. We have people who have Lou Gehrig's. We have people who have dementia. We have people who have very specific needs. So there are so many different educational pieces that the caregivers can learn that I don't say to the caregiver, this is what you have to do. I do an assessment when the caregivers come in, and we ask them where do they think their weakest area is, or if they had the opportunity to be further educated by us, where do they think they would like to learn? What's their field of interest, so to speak? And a lot of the caregivers love the fact that they can pick their own training module every month. So we don't mandate that this is what you have to do. They get to pick.
Wow.
So that's a beautiful thing for them because they're interested already.
Sure. And then does the training happen online, or are they meeting up in your facility?
No, we have all of that stuff on our website, and there's special passwords that the caregivers can go in and they get to pick, and we have like 36 different modules there.
Wow.
So there could be one just about Parkinson's, there could be one about Alzheimer's, there could be one about dementia, maybe toileting, hydration, food preparation, all the gamut.
So they know if there's a client that has a particular need, they know, well, I need to focus in on this month.
Right. And the truth is, Melissa, that we would be telling them that anyway, because, it's the little details that actually matter when you're taking care of a client, especially if it's somebody with dementia. You need to know what they liked and what they don't like. It's super important.
Sure. So do your caregivers try to bring the client out to do some social things too ever, or is it really up to the client what they want?
Well, depending if there's no cognitive decline or no cognitive issues, they may just not be able to drive through maybe a surgery. So we can drive them. There may be some people that have dementia who really don't get out of the house for different reasons. Either their family, doesn't want to take that risk of maybe them going out, or that they can't verbalize what they need, in which case you wouldn't really be taking them out unless it's to a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
We do take care of quite a few people who don't have any cognitive decline at all. They're just elderly and they're too old to drive. I mean, we might have a 98-year-old man that he's fine. He just can't get around as fast as he used to.
So that's a situation where you'd be bringing him to the grocery store or something, just to get him out of the house?
Absolutely. Or maybe a walk, or some of our clients go to the health club, but we drive them there and we wait for them, or the grocery store, or to meet their friends for lunch, and we kind of just sit in the background and wait until they're ready to go. If they want to have social engagement, some of the senior centres, the townships, like I said earlier, it's all about what they want.
It's
what
up
we
to
can do
them,
for
yeah.
them.
Whatever
Yes.
they want to do, if you can do it,
Yeah.
your caregivers will do that.
So we never really want to come in and take over somebody's house, and the seniors always think, oh, I don't want home care because they're going to come in and take over. That's not what we're about at all. Quite often we train our caregivers to say you're their personal assistant. You're their personal assistant, and you just need to blend in. We never want to take away anybody's independence, ever. We just want to help them.
I imagine your clients and your caregivers, if they've been paired together for a while, they must get really close with
They're
each other.
inseparable. They're inseparable. Yeah, they love each other.
That is so nice. So I would like to thank you for joining us here today. I appreciate all of the information that you've been able to share with everyone. I hope we've answered lots of questions. Is there anything else you think that people need to know, or do you think we've covered a lot of bases here?
I think we've covered a lot. This is very confusing for a lot of our seniors, especially when you're in, an emergency situation. Who do we call? Where do we go? Where do we start? The biggest thing I'll say to people is, educate yourself, because someday we're all going to be there. We're all going to be old. So educate yourself and learn the differences between some agencies versus others. And as a consumer, the internet is available to all of your families today. So even our seniors, don't go on the internet. That's okay. Have your children research. Is this a reputable company? Check with the BBB, check with associations, check with the townships, check with the villages and the chambers, and just educate yourself so that you know what you're getting into.
And if people have questions, I would imagine you're available. Maybe I don't know what I need, and I call you and I can ask you some questions, and maybe you say, maybe it's not me that you need. Maybe
Sure.
you need something medical, or maybe you're going to say, yeah, that's exactly what you need. I imagine that you can help a lot of people.
Right. Well, we have probably 40% of our calls come in. We don't actually take those people on as clients right away.
Okay.
They actually don't know what they need.
Right.
Which is a lot of
just
what we
trying
do
to
is
start
education.
somewhere.
Yes, and they don't know who to reach out to. So we try and help them. If they never use my services, maybe they're not ready for me, or maybe they're past what I can help them. Maybe they are needing more medical, which we don't do. So we kind of work with people in our neighbourhood. And when I mentioned earlier about continuity of care, there's so many fabulous businesses, business owners and healthcare people that are in that group that I can refer to them and they can help somebody. So we never leave anybody hanging. We always try and get them to where they need to go, whether it's me or not. It's a great resource.
Well, that's wonderful. You are a wonderful resource for people, and I appreciate you sharing all of this information with us here today on Take 5. So if you would like more information on Aishling Companion Home Care, you can reach Aishling at 708-361-7845. AishlingCare.com on the website, or visit their Facebook page, Aishling Care. So thank you so much for joining us today. We
You're
appreciate it. I
welcome.
hope
Thank
you've been
you
able
for
to help
having
a
us.
lot of people. I'm Melissa Fedora, and you're watching Take 5 on Southland TV.